Welcome back to Sunday Live. Would you believe it, as we were just about to start the interview, the lights went off, but we're happy to be back with you now. And we're happy to have in studio with us Principal Secretary Mutea Iringo, Ministry of Interior. Repatriation, 1 million, over 1 million actually Somali refugees over the next 3 years. It is a joint exercise and it has been in the works for a while now. Tell us, what is the actual objective of this exercise, and what has the relationship been like with the Somali government and also the UN in establishing this joint task force?
Yeah, thank you for giving me this opportunity to highlight on the agreement that was signed today. The agreement was signed between Kenya, the Federal Republic of Somalia, and the UNHCR. Of course, as you are aware, the Deputy President presided over the ceremony, and I think this is a very significant moment in Kenya, because over the last 22 years, Kenya has hosted refugees from several countries around the region, and particularly significant is the 500,000 refugees from Somalia in particular. Of course, the repatriation, the aim of this agreement is to repatriate, or rather take back home the Somali refugees back to their country, so they can be able to participate in the development of their country. This is something that we've been negotiating over time, over the last 1 year, but it was given much more impetus following the formation of the new government, sometimes in April, when His Excellency the President agreed with the President of Somalia that it's time that the refugees went back home.
Now, you know, it's, as you've mentioned, it's over 2 decades since we've housed actually the largest number of refugees in any one country in the world, not just in Africa or in the region. And you know, the question perhaps is, why now? Is it the security concerns that have given impetus to this? You say the new government has come in, but what are the actual aims, and what are you hoping to achieve on the ground as you repatriate the refugees?
Of course, one of the issues, one of the challenges that we faced over time is security. And since 2001, when the country was experiencing a lot of attacks by the terrorists in parts of northeastern coast and Nairobi, you remember this is a time the government decided to intervene in Somalia in pursuit of the terrorists who are actually causing insecurity here. And currently, we are sure that once they are repatriated, we'll be able to minimize the incidence of insecurity to a large extent. Of course, that is not the only threat that we were facing as a country. We had the environmental degradation that we were contending with over 500,000 people confined in a small area. Also, we had the problem of a conflict between the local communities and the refugees, competition for resources, and all that. Of exploitation of natural resources, including water, the boreholes and all that.
So a combination of factors. Let's stay with security for a moment and just look at the idea that right now, with the threat of terrorism, it's not really a national issue, but very much a regional issue. And that repatriating refugees may be one step, but certainly not enough. What else is happening in terms of working together with the regional governments to ensure that we are keeping our nation safe?
Oh yeah, of course, there are various initiatives locally and internationally. Within the region, we are working with the IGAD member countries to share information and ensure that the threat of terrorism is minimized to the bare minimum. The issues of radicalization in the region, we are collaborating, and we are also, through the Interpol, we are collaborating with the international community, particularly specifically in the East African region. You know, the East African countries are working very closely, even to ensure that the documents, the vital documents, including the identification document, the passports, the visas, and the work permits, are scrutinized thoroughly as a region to ensure that there is security.
Moving from security now to what you've touched on, which was the relationship between the refugees and the camps and the local communities. And while there had been some conflicts, there's no doubt an industry that has grown around the refugee camps. What then happens to the communities who have been relying on this for employment or as a source of income? What then?
Of course, an economy had emerged around the refugee camps. Of course, the youth are also getting employment, and they support the presence of refugees. But you admit that the national security really cannot be compromised by any other considerations. And of course, the youth will be able to engage in other productive activities, including using the ways of fund and other opportunities around us. Okay. It is critical that we really cooperate now that we have reached this far. You know, this is something that we started about a year ago, and getting it to be signed actually took us time. Fortunately, the advantage is that over the last few months, following the sensitization, about 80,000 refugees have been able to go back voluntarily on their own.
Right. 80,000 already have been repatriated voluntarily.
Voluntarily. In fact, some even they just asked for transport to go back home.
Now, a critical question. Define voluntary. How does one say, I do want to go back? And for the refugees, human rights organizations that are watching, the question that is probably foremost in their minds is, how do we protect the rights of these people even as we repatriate them back to their homeland?
Yeah, we are strictly operating within the UN Convention of 1951 and the AU Convention of 1969, which gives a framework on how to handle refugees. One, of course, you cannot stop a refugee who is running away from his country if there is really real founded fear, or if his life is in danger. This is how we found, we ended up admitting this number of refugees. Similarly, the same convention gives provisions of how refugees can go back home voluntarily. Of course, they will be sensitized, they will be explained. We also have sessions where some refugees will be taken to Somalia to see, come and tell the others. And this, partly this has been done. And the fact that about 80,000 have gone back voluntarily gives us assurance that they will all go once we make arrangements for their reception, and of course create an hospitable environment in terms of providing water and whatever other facilities in Somalia.
Brings me to my next question. Is Somalia ready? And when I ask that question, there's the issue of the security concerns and stability in the country, which is, of course, you know, in process, in progress. People are working on that. But also, this is a large number of people to repatriate. Sure. So what plans will they have in place to receive them in an organized fashion?
One thing, of course, you have to bear in mind is the fact that nobody would like to be a refugee. Wherever you are, home is best. So people are really yearning to go back home. And the major impediment over the last several years, over the last 2 decades, has been insecurity in Somalia. But following the intervention of the KDF and the AMISOM soldiers now, and the formation of the TFG, Transitional National Army of Somalia, so security has been stabilized to a large extent, and this is why they have an incentive now to go back home and participate in.
Okay, let's weigh in with the thoughts from our audience and our question tonight. Let's have it on the screen for you. We've been asking you. Our focus is the repatriation. We've been asking your thoughts. Do you support the repatriation of Somali refugees and